This is NightCap with Dr. Nola Haynes, streaming only on the Persist network.
All right, y'all. I live in D.C. I live in Southeast D.C. And I am here to tell you that I feel perfectly safe and perfectly fine. And then on top of that, I work in Navy Yard where all the teenagers, where all the kind of chaos with the teenagers were happening over the summer because it's summer and a lot of them just didn't have anything to do. Now, I'm not here justifying the bad behavior that they got up to. I'm not doing that. But what I'm saying is, if I leave the office when the sun is going down, I feel perfectly fine walking to my car. When I'm driving home at night, I feel perfectly fine driving home at night. My life does not feel threatened. I am not tripping over unhoused bodies to get anywhere in the city. In fact, I honestly have not seen unhoused folks since winter. And I'm being very honest. I'm moving from LA, as many of you know. Now, I was literally tripping over folks in LA in my own carport. No shade to LA. I'm just keeping it a buck. That is not the situation here in DC. Let's be very clear about what is happening. Now, a lot of people are saying this is a distraction from the Epstein files. Y'all know how I feel about the whole distraction thing, right? Like, I think it's overused to the point where it just doesn't have any weight. What I think is, I said this on my Substack the other day. Remember, we're talking about a situation where the Speaker of the House dismissed Congress for what, like a month? So electeds are not here. Was that coincidental? Was that a whim, or was that strategy? I am focused on the fact that electeds are not here in DC and this happened. Is that coincidence? Is that whim? Or is that strategy? Because if it's strategy, then we need to stop saying what's a distraction. Because when we say it's a distraction, what we do is not realize how these people are moving, that these are strategic moves. And I'm not trying to give Trump, some super chess genius label. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is we have been kind of outmaneuvered, folks. And if we keep saying things like it's just a distraction, we are not taking things as serious as we need to take them. I don't believe in coincidences. Maybe that's just my security brain. But the fact that there are no electeds here, and this is the time that Trump chooses to do this, and then on top of that young guy, Big Balls, got beaten up, some say by two 15-year-old girls. It's just all over the place. The story is wild and crazy. But my point is this. We need to stop underestimating the strategists who are behind the scenes, who are maneuvering around us. Because if we keep saying it's just a distraction, we will continue to be outmaneuvered. But trust and believe, y'all, I feel very safe in Washington, D.C. And if I'm being honest, what makes me feel unsafe as a Black person in Washington, D.C. is the occupant in the White House, because there's more evidence that he is targeting Black folks. Because after D.C., he's mentioned Oakland, he's mentioned Chicago, he's mentioned Baltimore, places where there are Black mayors, places where there are a lot of Black bodies. Now, what he hasn't talked about is crime in red states. And another thing, I also find it insulting that the president is talking about criminals and the ugly language that he's using to talk about this so-called crime here in Washington, D.C. I have been talking about this for days, that crime is at a 30-year historic low, down by 26%, specifically violent crime. Crime is down in every single category. But here's the thing. One of the first things he does as president is to release violent January 6th criminals who hurt police officers. That's okay. But teenagers in Navy Yard or Black Howard students on U Street that's returning back to school for a new school year, those things aren't okay. This man is coming for Black folks. Why? Because we overwhelmingly vote Democratic. It's that simple. He wants to humiliate us. He wants to crush our spirit and our will. He has pushed out more than 300,000 Black women out of the federal workforce, and industry they're not picking us up because of how he has corrupted diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I also say shame on those businesses that comply. And then on top of that, additionally, there are about 100,000 Black men that have been added to that number. So we are looking at about 400,000 Black folks that have been pushed out of the workforce. He is targeting Black cities with Black mayors. He definitely cannot stand Black women. We are under attack. And it is not by teenagers in Navy Yard. It is not by Howard students on U Street. It's by the occupant of the White House. All right, folks, in the People's Brief, I like to break down a few news items, things that are happening. So I had to get it off my chest about the realities of living in DC, and no, we are not being overrun by teenagers and unhoused folks. That's just not happening. Second thing I want to talk about on the People's Brief, let's talk about Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, saying or sharing a video that women shouldn't have the right to vote. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time there because I could go on and on and on and on because I think that's beyond dangerous. It's beyond dangerous. And then the next step is going to be women shouldn't be working, right? Of course, sales jokes literally write themselves with this, but this isn't a joke. That's the thing. This isn't a joke. And that was the point I was trying to make about constantly saying things are a distraction, thinking about strategy versus just saying empty things to maybe assuage our own kind of inner. Y'all know I always have to bring in a foreign policy point. So one of the things that I'm keeping my eye on, one of the things that's happening is Trump is meeting his bestie Putin, and he's so excited about it. He's so excited to meet his bestie, although he did confuse Alaska with Russia, but that's okay. That's okay, because it mattered with Joe Biden's age, but it don't matter with Trump because nothing matters with Trump, right? Right. Okay. So he's meeting up with his bestie, y'all, and they're going to talk about carving up Ukraine without Zelensky. I don't think that's going to go well. I told y'all last week when this story broke, Zelensky was not going to be okay with that. And guess what? He is not okay with it. There's no way that you were going to have a conversation about Ukraine without Zelensky. That is just not going to happen. Nor is he going to give Russia what it wants. And I don't know why Trump and Putin, they tend to think that they are the kings of the world and they can just decree which shall be done. That's not how this is going to work, y'all. This is not how this is going to work. And actually, I was thinking about this morning. Zelensky has stood up to both of these men in a way that many of our institutions in the United States have not, in a way many of our corporate leaders have not. Law firms, universities that I've attended have not stood up to Trump in a way that Zelensky has stood 10 toes down to Putin and Trump. Just let that settle for a little bit. But y'all, why we are really here today. So let's talk about vacationing Vance, y'all's vice president. He stays on vacation, doesn't he? Who's paying for that? How does he do that? I had to sip my tea on that one, y'all, because this man seems to be on endless vacation. And you know what's funny? If Kamala Harris or even Joe Biden as vice president would have been on vacation after vacation after vacation, the way JD Vance is, do you know how they would have been crucified? But there are no consequences when it comes to the Trump world, right? There are no consequences. All of media now is conservative. So where you want to get the truth is here at places like NightCap. You want to get your truth with voices you can trust. But tonight, I'm so excited to have this one particular voice on NightCap. I'm going to read a little bit about her bio, and then I'm going to go to a quick sponsor break. So Amanda is the creator behind Cats on the Couch at Cats on the Couch on Instagram. If y'all have not seen that account on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, run there now. Cats on the Couch is a fast-growing satire account that turned an internet meme into a community with purpose. A resident of Falmouth, and I don't have the Boston accent, the Massachusetts accent to get the right way, so forgive me. She's a mom and marketing professional in tech. Amanda uses sharp humor and cat-powered commentary to challenge Vice President JD Vance and the politics he represents. What began as a tongue in cheek troll account after his very insensitive childless cat ladies jab evolved into a self described meow-litia organizing good trouble online and offline. I am so excited to talk to Amanda, but I am going to pick this up on the other side of my break. And as you all know, here on NightCap, we are powered by the Persist Network, and we want more smart, unbothered commentary where politics meets culture. Subscribe to the Persist Substack and never miss a drop, never miss a moment of the things that we are up to on the Persist Network. So subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe to our Substack. You won't miss any of our content. Amanda, welcome to NightCap. I'm so excited you're here.
Oh, Dr. Nola, thank you.
I am obsessed. I mean, like obsessed with your page. And we'll talk about the amazing growth of your page throughout the conversation. But tell us how you got here. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. Yeah. So, you know, I started the account just about a year ago. So I started it August 7th of 2024. And this was right around the time that comments had resurfaced from JD Vance saying that the nation was being run by a bunch of childless cat ladies who were miserable in their own life and wanted everyone else to be miserable too. And he was referencing people like Kamala Harris and AOC and Jasmine Crockett. And I'm sorry, these women who have the weight of democracy on their shoulders, but somehow he's trying to tie in how people with children should not, or people without children shouldn't have as much of a say in our democracy or the ability to vote as people with kids. Their votes should count for something extra. And it was at that same time that somebody on Twitter, I don't go there because it's a hellscape, but somebody on Twitter had said that there was an excerpt of JD Vance's book, Hillbilly Elegy, where it said that he admitted to having sex with a couch, which was not a real thing. It was a fabricated thing, but he's such an unlikable guy that it was believable. And so these things kind of all came into one. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a little troll account. And it kind of took off. And I was like, oh, people like this. And so I tried to use it for good and draw attention to the Harris Waltz campaign at the time and then down ballot. So that's kind of how it got its start. I didn't anticipate that it would be what it is. It was sort of a joke.
And I think those are the best stories because there are so many people who are so intentional about, okay, phase 1 of this, phase 2 of this, phase 3 of this. But you kind of prove the point about likability and unlikability to the point where you've had an account for a year and you're sitting at 1 million followers on
Yeah.
Instagram. That says a lot.
No, and honestly, I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. Like this little, you referenced the meow-litia. I didn't come up with that name. The meow-litia did. It's such a little community of people who, outside of myself, communicate with one another and are in community with one another. And so I would love to say that, yeah, I got us to 1 million followers, but it totally was not just me. But yeah, it's something.
Community matters. People tend to think about your audience. But again, you're proving the point. It's about community. It's about having people that are actively engaged, that are loyal, that will support you. It's beyond just having an audience. It's about building that community. But speaking of that community, you also do something very interesting that is so fascinating to me. You do not center yourself on cats on the couch. It really is animations of cats, like some sort of information about JD Vance. So explain that. I think that's fascinating that you don't censor yourself. Why did you?
I mean, not for nothing. The world needs to hear a little bit less from women that look like me. We need to not be centered. We got it wrong this election, not for nothing. So it really was about trying to give people consumable bits of information, but knowing that the information is super heavy, right? What's happening in our world is super heavy. So these cat pics sprinkled evenly amidst everything are like these little palate cleansers of okay, yeah, here's the heavy, but then there's like this adorable little cat. Or here's the heavy, but the heavy and the real, like don't
Mhm.
look away from that. But then also here's, something to laugh about. And so it became like this, like kind of yin and yang of reporting on what's going on. Um, while also, again, getting that involvement. Like I didn't go looking for those cat pics, people sent them to me.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's my inbox every day. It's like memes of JD Vance and pictures of people's cats. And, at the election, the day after, I should say, I woke up and I was kind of like, "Well, now what?" On so many different levels,
Huh. Yeah.
just life in general,
Mhm.
and how do I talk to my daughter about this? She had done so many reports on Kamala Harris and, like, how do I talk to her about how, we were all rooting for Kamala, but,
Mhm.
like, I watched my daughter get very excited about a female president, and,
Mhm.
like, so how do I wake up and talk to her about that? And, all of these heavy things, and there were people in my DMs that were like, "Please don't stop this."
Mhm.
And meanwhile, there were other people that were like, "You need to nuke this account because once these people get into office, they're coming after you." But then there were other people saying, "This is therapy, you need to keep going."
Mhm.
So I kind of got both sides of it, but ultimately we made the decision just kind of as a
Mhm.
community to just keep going. Yeah.
Let me pull on this thread a little bit about safety and security. I talk to a lot of influencers. I don't know if you think of yourself that way. How do you think of yourself? Because you do commentary. I have seen you do that. Do you consider yourself a political commentator, influencer?
No, I'm still figuring it out.
Okay.
I
Okay.
honestly don't know. I don't feel like I fit into any of those things, and like I said, it does feel like such a community. Like, when we went over to Nantucket, which we called Meow-tucket, I didn't think anybody was gonna show up, but people did. People bought plane tickets to come there and protest JT Vance.
That's influence, ma'am.
People were like, "Oh my god, can we take our picture with you?" I'm like, "Are you guys out of your fucking mind?" Dr. Nola, I was just like, "What the heck is going on?" But
Uh-huh.
then, we did start to use that to get into a little bit of good trouble, and, so I'm
Love
excited to
that.
talk about that as well. Yeah.
So let me pull on this thread a little bit. I am a woman who is very vocal about this administration. I was very vocal about the first administration. I live in DC. I work in national security and foreign policy. And there are people in my world who would probably love for me to shut up. I just don't think that can happen in this moment, especially when you have any sort of profile. But a conversation that needs to be had. Um, that isn't had enough is about security. You mentioned people saying to you, you should nuke this account because they're going to come after you. How did that make you feel? How did you deal with it? And how are you dealing with it? Because you were visible at
Yeah.
a million, telling me a story at before the show started about an account across the pond who's reached out to you. I mean, like people see this account. So how are you handling security?
So, leading up to the election, the account was completely anonymous. It was just cats on a couch, and for all anybody knew, it was being run by a bunch of cats on a couch, and I totally played into that. Once the election happened, I put my name on it, and I said, "You know what? I feel like I'm more protected in my community with my name out there than as an unnamed person that could get, you know, whatever."
Mhm.
Oh, I felt like honestly putting my name out there provided more security. And it let people know that there was a person here. And so I did run into the Secret Service while I was on Nantucket. After everything had kind of quieted down, one of them came up to me and they were like, "Can I ask you a question?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "Are you the cats on a couch?" I was like, "Oh my, I gotta call my mom."
I know your heart was probably racing like, "Oh my god."
First I said, he was like, "Are you cats on a couch?" I was like, "Am I getting arrested?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Okay, then yeah, fine. Yeah, I am." Um, but yeah, it was interesting, and he even said, he was like, "There are a few of us who really appreciate your work." And so whether or not I believe him or not, I did ask if I was on a list. He said, "No, I don't believe it." But
That
yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Again, okay, girl, I would definitely call that influence, but I understand because I don't feel comfortable with calling myself an influencer. Liz Booker tells me all the time, "You're an influencer." I'm like, I don't know if I feel like that.
I feel that way about you. Like I look to you for, like you give us news in a meaningful way. And I look to you and I trust your judgment. And so yeah, 100% I see that. It's just that as a cat account, I can't justify that thing.
I think this is wonderful because there's so much room in this political spectrum because it's a spectrum, right? It's not flat, it's not linear, it's very layered. And let's talk about South Park for a moment. We got to talk about South Park because they for years they have used parody, mockery as a way to make political statements. Even if the show creators wouldn't admit to that. I've been a fan of South Park pretty much my entire adult life.
Right.
So they are going pretty hard with
Huh?
Trump and bans, right?
Mhm.
So your account I see falls into that lane of parody and why that's also important for politics.
Right.
How do you feel about that? Do you agree or disagree with that?
I 100% agree. Yeah, so and, like, pre-South Park, pre-South Park, there was Charlie Chaplin breaking monologue, making fun of Hitler. You know what I mean? So, like, humor has always been used as a tool to combat fascism and authoritarian regimes because they are egomaniacs with inferiority complexes and they can't stand to be made fun of. Because when you're making fun of them or when you're laughing at them, you're not afraid of them. And
Exactly.
so keeping people laughing and keeping people engaged in comedy surrounding that person, like, I'm sorry, I'm not afraid of JD Vance with a giant bald head. I'm not afraid of that man. And there are people when they see, they're like, "Oh, the memes are so ridiculous," but you laugh. You can't be fearful of that idiot.
Right. So you kind of take away the mystique. And I think that I definitely do feel that there is a place for that and it's needed. It's needed along with the serious commentary. And that's what NightCap is designed for. We say our tagline is where politics meets culture because we need all of it. It can't just be these really deep, intense conversations all the time or we lose people. I think that is one lesson that we learned all the years that, the Democrats, we love being nerds, policy nerds. We have big brains and we love talking about policy, but that human connection,
Mhm.
it's that part is missing where, in my personal opinion, Republicans understand culture in a way that Democrats don't. And I'll tell you why. I have this idea that Republicans have created a culture around their ideology, especially MAGA. Like MAGA is a whole lifestyle for those people.
Mm.
Democrats, we don't really roll like that. Like you vote and you go home. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like it's not,
Right.
it's a lifestyle, right?
Well, what I think is a switch that I mean, you see it with Newsom, you see it with, a few of these other players, but, like, they're starting to get in on the petty. And they're
Yes.
starting to get in on the bullying. And so I think there is definitely a shift towards, okay, we're not gonna take, Michelle Obama's like, when they go low, we go high. Like,
Hmm.
no, we're getting in the trenches with you and we're gonna talk
Yeah.
shit, you know? So I think we have kind of made little changes in that way that I'm
Hmm.
excited about.
Hmm.
That I'm
Hmm.
ex
And when I'm out talking to people, because I just love just talking to people, and I've heard over and over, it's about that at some point a large part of the American population got the idea that the Democrats were too elite, too smart, too educated, and left behind the folks who do not fit that profile. Even though they may agree policy wise, it's not feeling welcomed into the elite bubble,
Right,
right?
right.
And I think I like to see positives, even when things look a little dark and a little bleak. And to your point, seeing Dems be themselves, come to life a little bit more, kind of relax some of the decorum. Yes, people want to hear you cuss. People want to see you animated and passionate. That is okay. That
Right.
is Okay. And your account is that passion, is that fun, and it punches back. Like, like that's one of the things about the account. It's not just this kind of like silly kind of parody. Like, no, y'all take some heavy swings.
We do what we can. So, I feel like I'm excited to see. So we saw, with these big nationwide days of action, right? People would show up and they would protest and then they would go home and they would wait for the new one or
Yeah.
the next one. But
Mhm.
there's opportunities to be resisting every single day. And so one of the things that I really love about this community and they do is that they come up with meaningful ways of resisting and just generally being annoying. And so, like, from 8 to 11, it started with from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern every night. There was an article that was released where JD Vance said, "Oh, yeah, I like to try to stay on top of things. I scroll socials between 8 and 11 p.m. Eastern." So now the meow-litia goes and meows on the VP's comment section every single night from 8 to 11 p.m. Just if you go to the VP's Instagram account and go to his comment section, it's just people meowing at him and just generally causing a ruckus. But that paved the way for now they've got like a little bit of, ooh, that was fun. Now we want to do something a little bit bigger. So we tried to crash the Heritage Foundation contact forms and filled it out with a bunch of erroneous data. Some of it is like, go fuck yourself at jdvancefucksthecouches.com. And, it's just it's not necessarily moving the needle in any like real impactful way, but it's giving people an outlet, first of all, like a therapeutic outlet, but it's also just making the jobs of fascists and authoritarians like a little bit harder. I don't want to
Mhm.
make things easy for them. I
Yeah.
want to be annoying. So
It's disruptive and it's resistance.
yeah. So, and, recently we booked up Nancy Mace's town hall tickets and, we do those little things. And I'm hoping what my hope is that once the time comes for like truly meaningful good trouble, people are primed and ready to do that. Whereas before they may have been nervous or fearful. And like for the record, being nervous or fearful of getting into good trouble is a privilege that only some people have. Like
Mm.
some
Yeah.
people have had to get into good trouble to make change. But I'm hoping that at the next opportunity for good trouble, whether it's putting your body on the line because ICE is in your neighborhood and you
Mhm.
want to like take care of your neighbors, people feel empowered to do that and not as afraid. That's like which is so silly to say out loud when the account started as a bunch of cats on couches.
I mean, I think it's important for you to have a vision and to have a mission because this kind of leads me to my last question. But before I let you go, I could continue to talk to you forever. But what's next for Cats on the Couch? Is it merch? What's next? Is it a conference or?
Merch because people ask for it. So basically anything that has evolved from the cats on a couch kind of brand is because somebody asked for it and we said, "Fuck it. Okay. You want this? You want that?" Um so at a personal level, I would love to be at the next DNC doing an
Mm,
interview like as a creator who
mhm,
is respected in this space. That is just a personal goal of mine.
mhm,
But as far as the account, like I said, we have such an engaged community who are willing to do anything, who want to put in the work. I
mhm,
would love to see how that can be thrown behind the next set of progressive candidates. Like, that's what I would like to see. And then the rest of it, I don't know.
mhm.
We'll see. The
Yeah.
people will tell us.
Being open to the journey. And I think that's so important to this kind of new space that we're all figuring out that you don't have it figured out. And that's the
Right.
beauty of it, right? So I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for kind of explaining to the folks about why JD Vance, why this work is important, the meow-litia, meow.
Not
To
much.
all the ladies out there. I do have one last question for you. Do you like cats? Do you have cats?
Yeah, so I have 2 kids, a cat, a dog, and a fish. It's a zoo over here.
That
Yeah.
sounds like a name of a really funny movie.
No, it's just life. Yeah. No, I
What kind
do.
of cats?
So it's a little orange tabby, and her name is Rosie, but we call her Rachel Meowed Out, and I don't know where she's gone.
Get your meow out. We gotta see Rachel.
Hold on.
This is hilarious. She'll come with the food bag.
We're both very food motivated. Okay, up here. Okay, all right.
Here comes Rachel Meow out. Oh my gosh.
Rachel, say hi to Dr. Nola.
Rachel Meow out. Hey girl, you're famous.
Look to me. Why are you doing this to me?
Your mom is famous.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
My
Sorry.
goodness. That is awesome
Okay.
because the whole team, we were trying to come up with a game to play with you, and it was going to be focused, and we had like this idea of name that cat, and then we were like, well, does she like cats? Is she into cats? Like we had this whole cat conversation.
God, I love that.
But next time we have you back on the show, we will play Name That Cat, but we are out of time today, but I'm so happy that we got to meet Rachel Meow.
And thank you for everything you do. Seriously. I look
Thank
to you every day. So thank you.
I appreciate it. And thank you so much for supporting my content. Sometimes when you are kind of like that hard news person, it's kind of hard to get people to pay attention to you, unless you like show some boobs or something.
We know it.
Thank you so much for always supporting, when I ask for you to collab, you always do. And I'm just so grateful for it, truly.
Of course.
And we will have you back on the show. Like I said, we're going to play Name That Cat next time you're on the show.
Yes.
And thank you so much for being on NightCap.
Thank you.
Bye, Amanda. Bye, Rachel Mia. All right, folks, that was a lot of fun. Follow Cats on the Couch everywhere on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. I forgot to ask Amanda if they are on Substack or YouTube, but I know for a fact she's on Instagram sitting at 1 million, y'all. So, Amanda, are you on YouTube or Substack?
I'm on Substack.
Okay. You personally or
Figuring
Cats
it
on
out. Still figuring it out. Yeah, as Cats on a Couch.
Okay. All right. She is on Substack, y'all. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in to another fun and amazing and informative episode of NightCap. And you all know what to do. We are the Persist Network. We are built for women, by women. Support us. Subscribe to our Substack. Subscribe to our YouTube. Help our community grow. We are the counter to all the nonsense on the other side. We have very important conversations, but we also have fun conversations because we understand that being human is what wins the day. Being able to connect to other folks, that is what wins the day. It's about community over here at the Persist Network, and we appreciate you all so much. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of NightCap. I am Dr. Nola Haynes, your fave political scientist. Bye, y'all.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Persist on Substack, YouTube, and Instagram.